So here we are to discuss the fallacies of irrelevance. Like we talked about last time, one of the things that are necessary for an argument to be good is that the premises lead to the conclusion, or you might say that they're relevant to the conclusion. And there are plenty of fallacies that tend to persuade us, but upon further evaluation, we see that they're using premises that are irrelevant to the conclusion. And so this is the second video that we're going to be talking about an additional 4 of those. The first 3 that we discussed in the previous video were the ad hominem fallacies, where you make a character charge against someone and then reach a conclusion that's irrelevant to that character charge. Also the straw man fallacy and the red herring fallacy. But now we're going to deal with 4 fallacies that are the appeal fallacies. They all begin with the word appeal. So the first is the appeal to force. Basically, everything that we fill in the word down here, it's going to be appeal to something. Something that's being appealed to is irrelevant to the conclusion. So the pattern of an appeal to force is to first identify that if you think that some proposition P is true, then something bad will happen. And then so proposition P is false. Examples of this are like from the mob days, surely you think that this is true, right? Because people who don't think it's true tend to find themselves in the hospital. So it's sort of strong-arming people to try to get to them to agree or to do something. It's probably less about getting people to believe something and more about you should act like P is true. Or, I'm sorry, P is false. So it's sometimes hard just to switch your beliefs just because you think something bad might happen, but it may be that you should act as if it's false because something bad might happen. And I suppose there may be times in life where a cost-benefit analysis really does result in if something bad will happen, then we should act a different way even though we know it. But if we really are wanting to act according to what's true and we're in a situation where we can, then this being true has nothing to do or is irrelevant to that being true. All right, let's go to another one. So that is the appeal to force. There are times when people mention that something bad will happen and that's not relevant to the conclusion. The next appeal to fallacy we'll discuss will be the appeal to pity. And that goes something like this. I say some proposition P is true. You should feel sorry for me. Or bad for me. So P is true. So it might go something like this. Look, we should do this at the school because the kids are going to be sad if we don't, so therefore we should do it. That's probably a bad example. I'm raising money for something. I'm raising money to accomplish this certain task, and everything seems to be going wrong for me these days. I haven't been able to do anything right, and it seems like everything I try just fails, so you should give money to me. So we probably heard those sorts of things plenty of times. There are a lot of these types of fallacies that we discuss in a textbook context are like blatantly bad. Like you would probably never be persuaded by the textbook versions of these. But we do see these pop up in real life where people are using emotion or pity to try to persuade us to do something. We probably see a lot of the appeal to pity fallacy happening just visually, sort of with unstated premises, where maybe an image is shown that's supposed to make you feel bad or to create some sort of psychological reaction that then makes you inclined to accept a conclusion. So when you see that happening, you should recognize it as that type of appeal, that it's not relevant to the conclusion, and so therefore you should not accept the conclusion on the basis of that appeal. Next is the appeal to the people. So appeal to people, can take a couple of different forms. The standard form, here, let me write this down, goes something like this. Some group or the majority believes proposition P, so P is true. Now, sometimes this is just everybody thinks that that's true. What do you mean you don't agree? Everybody thinks it's true, so it's true. Sometimes it's just that straightforward, an appeal to the people. Other times it's something like this. What all the cool kids believe that P is true, so therefore you should believe it as well. So it's still an appeal to the people, but it's not appeal to the masses. It's just appeal to a particular group. Again, to try to create a particular emotion. All these fallacies have some sort of psychological effect. It's to try to make you feel left out or like you would be the oddball, to try to motivate you then to jump in and accept what the group is saying. Now, I find that sometimes there is a reasonable connection between this premise and the conclusion, but it's these sorts of instances. It's when the proposition in question actually is something about which there is general knowledge. So I don't know if you ever watched the old game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but there was always a lifeline option. There were 3 lifeline options, and one of them was you could ask the audience. And what I observed as I watched the show, I never saw any actual data on this, I bet you could find it, was that early on in the contest, the ask the audience question was pretty helpful. When people would ask the audience generally got it right. And near the end of the show, as the questions got harder, asking the audience provided almost no help at all. And I think it's because there are some things that are just general knowledge questions. And so if you have a general knowledge proposition and you ask the masses, then almost by definition, they're going to get it right. In some sense, the general public is an authority as a group on general knowledge. But as you get to things that are not a matter of general knowledge, then you can't appeal to the people in order to gain some sort of rational support for believing that it's true. So, but again, a lot of times it's not necessarily to the general population; it's to a particular group that there's an appeal, and it's just trying to make you feel left out. And so that emotion is supposed to get you to accept a conclusion, not actual reason.